The Patriots stunning to some, again, victory over the Cincinnati Bengals 16-10. This is the first opening week victory since Cam Newton in 2020. So Ray, because you are the lone person on this show that last week said there's no fucking chance that the Patriots going to win, you laughed in DK in my face. How surprising was this victory for you?
I mean, I think, obviously I loved about both, but I loved more about the spread, and we'll get into that, shortly. But I mean, listen, I and many others were still corrected yesterday. That's one of the better performances they've had in a long, long time. And obviously, there's always things you could work on. But I was blown away, and like I said, pleasantly surprised that they came away with that victory. Yes, Cincinnati has been notorious slow starters in the Joe Burrow era, but I still thought they had enough to get that job done, especially at home in week one. But yeah, super shocked that they won. Once again, at the core, as a fan, of course, I'm happy that they won the game. But like I said, I was shocked that they came out there and really dominated them for most of the game. It wasn't something where they kind of just stumbled into the win. Like, they did many things to contribute to a good game for them in all three phases. So I was excited to see that.
Yeah, DK, that game was, it's one of the games that you like the most, right? It's a strong defense. But it wasn't sloppy by any means. Like, and every turnover was forced. So knowing that, like, you were with me last week when we were picking them in the spread. What did you like most about that win for the Patriots? And I guess why were you so confident in them covering?
I think the thing I sort of pointed to last week towards, or the last time that just the three of us were on a show, as we were coming down the stretch of that show, I was like, it's all upside for this coaching staff, right? Like, if they come in and they know that they have this kind of flawed roster, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and they're able to sort of game manage a win against a notoriously slow starting Cincinnati Bengals, and they've gotten the team to at least believe that they're not as bad as everybody says. There's a nice little coaching lemon falling off your garden tree when you can make them the nobody believes in us team, right? Where you can really start to G the guys up, because if they spent any of their offseason watching ESPN or listening to Ray on this show, they think they're a bunch of fucking bums, right? So, like, not letting that in, that's like a big thing. And essentially, I guess my point is, if they were going to play well, it was going to be down to the coaching staff. And it looked to me like they were one of the better prepared teams across the entire NFL yesterday, which I think is just all upside for you guys, because what you don't have is a ton of talent or depth, and that's fine. But what you do have, it seems, is guys that can do a lot with a little. So usually when guys can do a lot with a little, they can do a lot with a lot. That's in management positions. I have said that many times over the course of my life. So I think the O-line problems, like, my O-line looked so much worse than your guys' O-line. And on paper, yours is supposed to be twice as bad as mine. Like, the rankings are like 12th and like 32nd or whatever it is. So even more than twice as bad, right? So, like, the plug and play guys, that the way that they were blocking, like the way that they seemed to be like kind of set up and dealing with each other was a huge challenge for us. For you guys, it was like, and I made this point, it's like you can kind of put one together if you know the plays that you're running and everybody knows their job. They're not going to be dynamic as a blocking unit, but which they, I wouldn't have called them dynamic. I think it was very like methodical first quarter drive, a lot of good runs. And quite frankly, Romandre, I don't want to jump your agenda, but like look like fucking LeGarrette Blount out there, to be honest. Like really like real shades of it. And I was like, damn, he's running really, really well. He's not as slow as you think he's going to be when he gets like into the open field and gets his head down, because of his like frame and the way that he runs. But he's not the fastest guy in the world. I think he's just super patient and hits holes in such a cool and like methodical way that it's like kind of fun to watch your offense again, which has not been sort of untrue. But now that they're blocking properly down the stretch. So I'd say the coaching staff, to answer your question more precisely, what they were able to do with your offensive line, because we know what the offensive line is on paper. And it looked to me like it just looked like a unit of guys really working together, and they were really well drilled, and that's kind of what you needed.
Yeah. It kind of looked like the opposite of what we were seeing in the preseason. Like, I was banging the drum the hardest that this was a bad preseason, bad offseason for Mayo. I had real doubts and questions, but like, to your point, they did look so prepared, and everyone looked bought in. And, we were talking about this last week, the three of us. Now the Bengals are 1-5 in their last 6 openers. I didn't think that the Patriots were going to win. I just thought that they were going to cover because 7.5 points for week 1 against a team where their star wideout hasn't been practicing. T. Higgins was out, Joe Burrow, all those things.
I'd take a spread like that week 1 in the kind of situation, to be honest, because like everything's so unpredictable in the first week. Right. You don't know the preparedness levels of all the teams. Like Miami and Jacksonville, neither of them look fucking prepared. You guys could have beat either of those teams if you played them this week because they just both looked sloppy. So it made for kind of a fun game, but like it was because nobody was like dialed in. And like the only team I saw do that, like our first drive, we have all the plays mapped out. It's going to work because we have all the plays mapped out that teams get to in week 7, week 8, week 9. The only team I saw do that was the Pats this weekend, where that first methodical, like 80-yard drive that they did with like that ended with Stevenson with it, like a just short run that nobody touched him. And I was like, I mean, preparedness.
That's the thing too, right? Like yesterday was about finishing, right? So many times the last few years, they've been knocking at the door for a win, knocking at the door of a big play, knocking at the door of
against the Bengals.
That too, right? Exactly, right. So it's just like for them to finish yesterday is the biggest takeaway by far, because to be up 10-0 at the half when it really should have been 17, but whatever, they didn't do some plays at the end, but should have been up 17-0 at the half. Get the ball at the beginning of the half, which up here we should call the double whammy up here. And once again, like I said, they just dominated from start to finish. And once again, if you're gonna block like that, I think because listen, a call for if I'm saying his name wrong, whatever, he don't deserve his name to be said it right because he sucked yesterday. Thankful for them putting in Vidarian Lowe, who once again hasn't been someone to write home about, but he was really good yesterday. So if that's part of the combination going forward, ironically, we had someone named Michael Jordan, blocking for us yesterday. So once again, maybe thanks MJ. I'll take it. But yeah, like I said, I can't say enough about the line and how well they protected. Once again, 0 sacks, 0 sacks like that. If you had told us that and what's today, September 9th, if you had told us that on August 15th when they had lost to Philly here in the preseason, when I went to that game, if you had said that this team would give up 0 sacks in week 1 or any given point at the season, I'd have been like, okay. So I'll take it. But
I will give them credit though. They did this last year too. Like they had an atrocious offensive line in the preseason, and then opening week against Philly, like that was actually a shootout, and Philly had what we thought was a good defense at the time, and they didn't sack Mac Jones once in that game. Now he was sacked 1,000 times every week after that, but they were able to hold up.